Mark, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. How you
Yeah?
doing? Yeah.
It's a Friday. You're about ready to go home to your beautiful family in North Carolina?
Yeah, but I've enjoyed being out here for a few days in the beautiful state of South Dakota. It's been awesome.
Is it everything you expected and more?
And more, the dozens of people that you have in your town here are unbelievable.
See, we set the bar low, so the expectations are low. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we thank you for everything you've done to help us out with a lot of the technical chemical aspect of the work. It's extremely important because we're in the field and we're doing it every day, but to have that technical knowledge is paramount to us.
Yeah, it's kind of a team sport, right?
Oh, man.
You guys are out there just crushing it in terms of doing the work the right way and really focused on the standards and things like that. And we hope that we can be a part of making sure that the right products are being used properly every single time so that you get the best results for your clients.
Yeah. Why don't you talk a little bit about your partnership with Dow Chemical and how long that partnership's been in place and how that really changes the game for not only us but you and everyone involved, right? Having a strong partner in place like that.
Yeah, I think it's, as a manufacturing company, I think the first, let's say, 10 years of our manufacturing, we spent too much time developing products on our own,
okay,
right? And for the last 25 years, we've had partnerships, global partnerships with companies like Dow Chemical, and the way that our lab works with their technical people, their production people, is just so great because we can bring out new, better performing products much more frequently. We can improve those products over time, to keep you competitive in the marketplace as well. And as problems pop up that maybe we've never seen before, instead of just using our resources, now we're able to tap into the resources of companies that are manufacturing the base level ingredients, the resins and things like that, the individual antimicrobials that become components of our products overall.
So we as dealers really become guinea pigs a little bit in the product, in the field actual use of the products, right?
Yeah, I don't know a better way to launch a new product than to test it in a real world scenario, right? So often you get, and we see them all over the internet, where people will mock up these lab experiments, right? And yeah, it looks great in a petri dish or whatever, but it becomes virtually meaningless to the field itself. If you can take a product from problem to that first iteration in the lab and get that as quickly as possible into the field and test it together, and then begin making modifications and improvements until everybody agrees, yes, this is the product, this is the perfect product for the resolution of this problem, it's a great way to do it.
Well, it's really imperative to have field guys that have kind of been there, done that,
right,
seen things, because that's the whole process of really developing a great product, is shifting and moving a little bit. That's the whole need of it. It does this, but we really need it to do this as well, right?
Yeah, that's the partnership, right? So many people use this word partner, but it really it ends up being a one-way street where they really just mean profit, right? But partnership is that working relationship where you are constantly striving for excellence. I think in everything that we do, whether it is training information that we're putting out there or a new product that's being developed, it's not us alone who's doing it. It's our work together that ends up giving that final great result to the customer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I would add one more thing to that. Most of the time when products are being developed, they could accidentally be developed in a vacuum where job efficiency and safety and things of that nature aren't being taken as much into consideration as the sheer efficacy of a product. And you have to have a well-rounded product that considers all of those things, especially how long is it going to take to use it and how trainable is it, right? So thinking about all those things and spending a lot of time in the field like we do, it helps us always remain thinking about your business too, and not just our own. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I've really enjoyed about the last couple of days is talking about new products that you guys are coming to market. You know, we think of you guys as our mold chemicals, cleaners, our odor and smoke and fire chemical, but you're really branching off into other things. And not only are those things great, I'm sure they will be, but my assumption is that all of these products will come full circle to help out the original products as well and make them all better, right?
Yeah, when you look at the life of a building, right, it goes through specific stages. There's the new construction, as we talked about before. There's lumberyard mold and all of these sorts of things acting on materials in the building to begin with, that we can mitigate problems, indoor air quality problems, from the very onset of a project. And then you get into this maintenance phase of a project where you do want to maintain that over time. We spoke about condition 1 maintenance practices and things like that, so that customers after remediation remain in a state of condition 1, a healthy indoor living environment. But from time to time, you have issues prop up that are either emergency based, or that maybe someone hasn't cared for an area or paid attention to an area like an attic, a crawl space, a basement, as well as maybe they should have, and that's when remediation is required. And then you get into this long-term maintenance and restoration of properties as well, where, as you're alluding to, our relationship with Dow has enabled us to launch elastomeric based roofing products to extend the life of roofs, to be able to act as vapor barriers and to block out infiltration of air into buildings, all the way down to foundation level waterproofing, and now on to basically launching epoxy solutions as well, for that longevity of concrete surfaces and to keep buildings cleaner inside, which circles back to maintenance, indoor air quality, and all these sorts of things. So it's very cyclical, like you're talking about.
I don't think we've even touched the surface of the things that we're going to provide to the customer into the future, right?
Right. I look at it as being your company being a single stop shop of services for anything a customer would need under and above their roof.
Part of what I enjoy about our work is that we can experiment a little bit and experiment with the different levels of quality that we can of products that we can provide to the customer. It's fun for me to think that what we do now isn't what we're going to be doing next year or into the future, and really adding products and services for the customer.
Yeah, it's the same for me. Nothing's better than going on a job and hearing back from that customer several weeks later. We had this experience of working with a large customer who had warehouses, right? And prior to our roofing system, it was very hot in those warehouses, and because it's amazing how when the sun beats down on our let's say a metal roof or something like that, it might be hitting that roof and generating 120, 130 degrees or more. And when you're not insulated underneath in like a manufacturing situation or in a warehouse, and you get that direct translation to the floor down below, it could easily be 100 degrees working environment. And just to see, in the matter of installing that roof, that we could take that from, like we said, 120 degrees maybe at the roof level, 100 degrees down below, and immediately change it by 20, 25 degrees overnight,
game changer.
It's a game changer for people. Productivity, everything else is a game changer. Yeah.
What I also like about it is that we're producing products that people don't even know they need yet, right? I think Henry Ford said it best. If I'd have asked the consumer what they wanted, they'd have said faster horses, not a car, or they didn't know that it existed yet.
Right.
And really, that's what you're trying to provide to the market, is products that don't exist and we don't know that we need yet. Like, that's the future, right? That's AI. That's how this stuff is working so fast and makes you so excited to be alive at this point in time in life. Right?
Yeah, technology is awesome these days, and one of the things that we talk a lot about, like sales process and things like that. But one of the important things about the sales process is, and I think we can all relate to this as just humans, if I go into a Best Buy or something like that, I have a limited knowledge of what might be available to me technology-wise. And if I'm a smart consumer and I'm open, what I want that person on the other side to do is be a great consultant to me, to ask me questions that I may not even realize are important to me, right? And so, even when we go through a sales process and we talk about things like clarity for the day's visit and stuff like that, and we're able to ask the consumer questions that they don't realize are important to them, and then suddenly go, oh, I'm glad you asked me that question. Thank you. I feel like we've worked together to create a great process that, again, as long as the customer is open to being, exploring some possibilities, they get a much better service than if they would have tried to self-direct everything.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. One of the aspects that we haven't touched on that you guys dominate is odor, right? And really, in our world, everything that we do comes with odor.
Yeah.
Even the construction side comes with an odor of whatever. So let's go into, first of all, the chemistry of what odors are and how we transact with those odors to defeat them.
Yeah, so odors are simply microscopic particles coming in contact with our neuroreceptors, being recognized as odor. So when we don't often think about odor as a particle, right? You probably think about it more as a gas or something like that.
No one talks about odor in that way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So in that respect, do I smell things differently than you do?
Oh, well, sure, because we all have different levels of sensitivity when it comes to neuroreceptors,
Okay.
right? The other thing that we find is like odor has this unique way of lingering with us even beyond the actual existence of the odor itself, right? Because if it's a part, it's become a mental thing. If you've lived around it for a while and it's been something that's been sensitive to you, you may have a hard time letting go of it, and so we've seen that happen a lot.
Become nose blind to it, right?
That's the opposite side of it. Yeah. Especially like when people are trying to sell a home and maybe there's cigarette smoke, and again, like you said, they become nose blind. They don't realize how not removing that odor is impacting the sale of their property.
So we'll start on the consumer side because you went there as far as real estate transactions, things like that.
Yeah.
Like our two biggest on the consumer side, in my opinion, I would say are cigarette smoke and pet odors.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And those are two of the biggest things that when people live in those homes, they become very nose blind to them.
That's right.
It's their environment. It's their comfortable place. So that is the smell that they maybe enjoyed, but it doesn't hit the same with a new consumer coming in and looking at this home. So what are our possibilities with battling those odors?
Yeah, so when I think about odor, I think of it as being maybe one of the most complex services environmentally to mitigate to begin with, right? Because there's a lot of moving parts. Did that odor go down? And I use this terminology, like the way that an odor goes down is how you want to think about cleaning it back up. But if we're talking about pet odor for a second, that occurs on a couple of different levels, because when you've got urine, for example, right? First of all, we've got to think about the urea, the salts that actually form as a result that are producing that odor. Then we got to think also about bacterial odor. So when we're working through a process, we're thinking about the variables that are involved in that, and suddenly it takes on a dimension of, oh, we need to make sure that maybe we use a product like CleanZyme to begin with to break down that urea, those uric salts and those sorts of things first, and we penetrate into that maybe subfloor or whatever it may be, and extract all of that to begin with. But we're not done, because now we've got the bacterial odors and everything, which is where we bring in Deuterion to go after that next in the very same way. So normally odor can be a multi-step process, but so many, I think, in our industry are just kind of lobbing softballs at things, hoping that something's going to work, instead of knowing exactly what soil load they're going after. And I use that term a lot because we just talked about two things, bacteria and uric salts. Well, those are two different soil loads that require two different chemistries in order to remove them from the surface, right? So I think having a relationship like we have enables us to be great consultants to you to begin thinking through that and put together a process that's going to work consistently every single time you run into everything. Because then when we go to the opposite side of things, the two things that we're thinking about is not just the smoke odor, but the nicotine that's on that surface as well. Again, when we're focused on that, we're probably focused on the nicotine first because we want the environment to look great when we're finished. And once we remove that nicotine from the surface, now again, Deuterion comes in, but from a fumigant standpoint and gets into all the nooks, crannies, and other areas that we could never get into physically ourselves. It gives us and the customer great peace of mind of not having odor return over time as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when I look at you guys, and it's probably just my construction background, I guess, but when I look at you guys, I look at you more as engineers than I do chemists. And why I say that is that if we have a complicated construction project, we go to a structural engineer. The structural engineer's job is to give us a path, give us a map of how to reconstruct the project.
Yeah.
Our job is to put it together, buy those instructions on site. Your job is no different. We run into these issues, whether it's cigarette smoke, pet, whatever we're running into, we come back to you with the problem, and you give us an exact path to recreate and clean and mediate whatever our issue is. You want to go into a little bit of that?
Yeah, so when we're thinking about odor or anything else, we're not just thinking about the soil load that we're trying to mitigate, we're also thinking about, for example, the substrate, right? Think of how many substrate.
It could be on
right,
anything,
it could be plywood, right? It has a lot of resins in it. It could be yellow pine. It could be a countertop like we're talking about here, or cabinetry, or fixtures. There's a million different substrates to be thinking about as well, and not all products should be used on every substrate, right? Exactly. You've got to think about not damaging that substrate at the same time, and then in the final clean, if you will, leaving that behind oftentimes maybe better than what you found it in the first place, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of elements to it which from my standpoint makes us, we just have to be good consultants. Ask a lot of questions, spend the time up front to do our due diligence to make sure that the solution that we're providing to you takes into consideration soil load, substrate, time, labor, safety, all of these elements that are so important on every job. And I just don't think that if we were a company that sold through distribution, I don't think we would be able to provide the same level of care and service that we want to provide, right? The only reason that we sell directly to our customers is that this relationship wouldn't exist without that way of doing things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's really that personal touch and knowing that for the most part, when we run into an issue, time is of the essence.
That's right.
Right? I mean, we're probably physically in the home or the business, we're in the building, and we need to figure out a solution ASAP because it's hurting the consumer, and we're trying to figure out a solution. So knowing that and knowing how available you and your team always are for any solutions is paramount to us giving the best possible product to our customer. I assume you agree.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in this family of chemistry, right? So I've been in this for my entire life, it feels like. And my dad always just considered us a problem solver, right? Beyond, being a manufacturing company, he just, it was like he lived to solve problems. And so many people will run away from problems, right? And they just want to sell a product or whatever. And I think that we kind of embrace the discomfort of problems, and we go, okay, let's figure this out together. Just the other week, we had a customer come to us who had used an exterior sealer that was solvent-based to try to seal a basement floor after an odor issue that they had, and it was off-gassing like crazy. And now the problem wasn't just that they had the original odor. Now they have this solvent odor, and the customer, they had to put them in a hotel, right? And of course, now that's eating at their profits they had planned on. And every company's got to be sustainable, but they did the right thing. They put the customer in the hotel. But I got to say that 48 hours later, we had the right solution to them. And the video that they put together for us, just talking about what that process was like, it was kind of heartwarming, right? It was awesome, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, change lives every day, right?
Every day.
The crazy part in my mind is that when your typical chemist, scientist, that sort of personality and knowledge, you don't typically move fast. Right?
Yeah.
You have a direct path, and it takes what it takes for me to solve this.
Yeah.
Our life on our side is a different scenario because of that speed that's needed. So for you guys to almost upend your normal path of life and personality can be troublesome for a lot of people, right?
Well, it's one thing that goes along with a company that has a 35-year history, right? We've manufactured.
Mine quit working. In space, phone storage space.
We can use mine.
Okay, perfect. We'll keep going then.
Yeah. We our 35-year history simply means that we can pull from hundreds of formulas that we've developed over time, and sometimes bring those formulas back in a way that we never expected to begin with, right? It may have begun on the industrial side or something like that, and all of a sudden the problem or a similar problem occurs on the commercial side, and before you know it, we've got a pretty ready-made solution that may, have an alteration to concentration or something like that. But having hundreds and hundreds of developed products on hand allows us to move pretty quickly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk about today?
I think we should talk, just kind of extending this odor conversation about doing it right in the first place, because we have the unique perspective from the outside of you probably working with real estate agents, property managers, maybe even maintenance managers and things at universities, and oftentimes we find that the first step that they take is the most costly step, and that is they just try to paint over something and hopefully put a client into an apartment or whatever in minimal time. And we get that desire for minimal time, but they kind of step on their own feet not knowing it. What kind of experience have you had with that over time in working with clients?
Well, when you talk about on the real estate side, realtors, they become pretty educated on real estate, but it's not, they're salespeople, so it's not really their job to know the structure of a home, even though they're kind of a jack of all trades and they do know quite a bit about it. But we really become a trusted partner with them on that front, just to pick up the pieces where they left off, where their knowledge kind of ends on the structure and things like that. So we come in all the time with whatever issues there are, because that's the entire synopsis, is that there are so many different possible scenarios that could arise during a transaction between two people, because one person finds this to be my home and my house and my castle, and they're selling it to someone that simply doesn't have that knowledge or that experience or that heartwarming feel for that property quite yet.
Right.
This is something that they're trying to develop into. So having those two personalities and really assimilations to the property, we really need to be a trusted source, but be a neutral source, right?
What's the best mindset that a property manager, maybe a builder who has problems, what's the best mindset that they should enter into a relationship with you? If they're coming to you with a problem, what have you found to be their best mindset to do so?
Well, being open and honest, first of all, and honesty is that it can be hard in a real estate transaction, because you're exactly right. Sometimes the easiest way to do it is paint over it and move on.
Yeah.
That's simply putting another person in a potential bad spot down the line.
Yeah.
And down the line might be a year, 2 years, 5 years, but it doesn't matter. When we're trying to sell someone a piece of real estate, we're assuming that they're going to own this piece of real estate for a long time.
Right.
So we really want to not only correct the situation aesthetically, but really correct the situation. Whatever the root cause of the problem is where we want to go with it. Now, is that more expensive? Almost undoubtedly. It's going to cost more in the initial, but it won't cost more long term.
Right.
But you're in a transaction as well. So there's got to be a give and take there. Like, we can't ask them to completely tear apart things that don't. You're right. We have to be reasonable about our expectations as well.
Right.
But if we can talk through what the root cause is and how we fix that root cause, and then fix the aesthetics and make it look pretty, everyone's going to be happier in the long run, right?
So maybe I want to say, like, I'll just give you a term and relate to this. A lot of folks, if we're just talking about mold for a second, right? A lot of folks like to use the term mildew, okay? And a lot of times they use that word mildew unknowingly, or maybe knowingly. They'll use that term to help soften the discussion with the hopes of it being less costly. But I think what we're saying is it's more important to have direct conversations, to have realistic conversations, and to not worry about price right away. Like, let's be direct, let's be honest, let's be real problem solvers here. And then, yes, let's help you also achieve those financial objectives. But beyond anything, complete clarity and transparency in a relationship is important.
Well, the beauty of our company is the cost to mitigate mildew and the cost to mitigate mold are the same.
It's the same, right? Just a different word. Right.
So let's just get that out of the way. No, but tongue in cheek, obviously. But no, I understand where they're coming from. We really do. But what we run into is a competitor of ours coming in and them just saying whatever they want to the customer.
Right.
Now, here's what actually happens when it comes to our competitors. Even our best techs that have an extreme amount of experience, we preach to them that if you are not 100% certain about what this outcome should be and how to mitigate the situation, I want to call. I want to call the management, and then if management doesn't know how to remediate the situation, it's a call to you guys. And then if you guys don't know, maybe it's a call to someone above, right?
Yeah.
We need to go as high a level as we need to fix the situation right.
Yep.
I don't care about not knowing. I don't know everything. I've been doing this for a very long time, and we run into things weekly that sometimes we have to talk through how we should mitigate it.
Yep.
But the whole key is getting it right, not being right.
Right. That's exact. And to that end, one of the most productive ways that we've found to have a relationship is not just having a relationship with you. Sometimes it takes a few of us. Let's say we're working let's say we're working on a real estate transaction. Let's bring that real estate agent in, or whomever is involved, and understand what their concerns are, and also help them just feel more comfortable and at ease with things. And I think in doing that, we can get to the heart of the matter more quickly and really understand what those concerns are, what the objective is, and hit the nail on the head the first time, every time, instead of, kind of taking the circuitous path and hoping that you've eliminated all variables in between.
Well, that is a good point, because sometimes when we bring all parties together, they just want us to aesthetically make it look better.
Yeah, that's
their goal.
Yep.
And if that's the case, I'm here to give them whichever level that they want.
Right.
But let's be transparent.
Let's say
this is only a Band-Aid over this. And as long as you guys are going into this transaction, both parties, eyes wide open, then that's what we'll provide. And we can give you any level of that.
It certainly prevents non-disclosure issues.
For sure.
Yeah.
But all that did was comes down to communication.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If we communicate well with the customer and when I say communicate, not blowing a bunch of jargon at them that they don't really understand, but they're just nodding, oh yeah, sounds great.
Right.
Because to be very honest, I could tell them whatever I want. I'm the professional, they're going to believe me.
Right.
That's not right.
That's right.
That's simply not right, and that's not how we live. We want to give them all the scenarios. They choose, almost like a menu, they choose what level they want to go to, along with pricing, right? Because the cost of this comes into this greatly, right? So this is the cost to do X, this is the cost to do Y. How would you like us to proceed? And then we give them that level of service that they need.
I've got one for you that you probably didn't think we bring up right now, but that is, what about customer financing? How does that Have you seen that playing a greater role in people's lives? And because we have, but I'm curious as to how that's playing out in Sioux Falls.
It plays such a massive role. I mean, if you think about it, what do you buy today that's not financed? Whether it's financed on a credit card or buying a car or whatnot, everything is financed. So what financing does for us is a few fold. Because we have different levels of financing, whether you're talking about a 12-month same as cash or whether you're talking about a full 15-year loan, we can do anything in between there. So once again, communicating that to the customer, allowing the customer to figure out what's best in their scenario, and then them evolving through that. But it's just another option that we provide the customer.
Yeah.
We try to give them as many options as possible. Sometimes if you give them too many, it's overwhelming.
Sure.
So we as the professionals need to know that giving them 2 to 3 options is usually best. They can usually navigate around there. If I'm giving them 15, I understand that that's just
get paralyzed.
Yeah, they really do. Which I probably would get paralyzed, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So,
sometimes I have trouble picking out what jelly I want my peanut butter and jelly if there's too many in the options.
I hear you. It's no different here, but the financing piece is massive for the industry because a lot of times the work that we're doing for people, they didn't plan on this last month or last
That's
week,
right.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if they're even if they did plan on it, we can be a part of that planning stage with them, because if it's part of the planning stage, then I can give you financing options. The beauty of my financing options is it's on your credit. It's not on your real estate. So some people will look at our financing and say, I'm paying just a hair more as far as a percentage go, but then when I go to a bank, but a bank is going to tie this collateral to my real estate.
Right.
That's a big difference.
Yes, it is.
Not that the bank shouldn't go that route, but I'm saying that I have an alternate option that maybe you didn't even know was possible, right? And that's really what we're providing to them, an alternate to go into the bank and having to do a bit of an enema financially
right.
over everything you've got to lay out. We're going to be able to pre-qualify you in about 90 seconds, and it's going to go straight off your credit score and a couple other factors with income and things like that, and we know what you're pre-approved for. It's an incredible process.
And the beauty is, even if you get into that process where you think the job's going to cost X, but then as things come together, it gets a little more costly than that. Or you decide, I'd like to upgrade my level of service or whatever. A lot of times people are already max approved so that they don't have to go back and get reapproved.
I mean, I'm here to tell you, I've been doing this for a very long time. I don't remember doing a project that didn't have a small change order in one way, shape, or form.
Right.
Our job is difficult. You're asking me to give an entire project overview without being able to open anything up.
Yeah.
That's hard, right? And we give best guess, and we do our absolute best to try to give a higher level pricing-wise than even maybe we anticipate, so we don't run into those, but it still happens almost every time. It happens with the customer. The customer says, well, I can upgrade these things from what I had. I didn't really like that before.
Right.
That's what I'm here for, to put a smile on your face, because when I'm done, when we leave, we want you to be happy with the project. We don't want you to bring your friends in and say, we did this, but I wish we'd have done this. It would have been better. Yeah,
which means even on something like a fire job, a flood or something, people do have the opportunity to maybe bring in better finishes than what they had before. Yeah, insurance is not going to cover that, but maybe you've been thinking about it for the last 10, 15 years and you wanted to upgrade, and that's, I hate to say it, but that's an opportunity. Yeah.
Some of these things don't cost anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Upgraded paint colors, different flooring, things like that. A lot of times we can get a lot of those things done for their insurance pricing. It really depends on what we're talking about. The nice part about working with Crew is we have a designer on site, right?
Yep.
We have a designer that will help you out with paint colors, with finishes, with the newest styles and whatever else, because I say this all the time. When people come to us a lot of times, whether it's planned or not, they're in a moment of need,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Whether they have a need of needing something upgraded on their home, whether it is a flood or a fire, that's a classic need and upgrade, or it's a remodel. They're just something on their home is tired and needs to be revamped,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We can provide a massive gap in that need for them by bringing in a designer and really helping them just a wow factor when they come back into their space.
And so not only do you get the job done right, but even if it does cost more than what insurance is willing to provide, you've got a financial solution for them.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the key to that comes back to communication.
Yep.
Making sure we're getting them pricing up front so they know not only do I want this, but I can afford it or I can justify it price-wise. Because it comes down to price most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't, and people just want what they want, and no problem. We will give you, within reason, whatever you're asking for, we can probably provide it.
Yeah.